Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wait What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 204. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You drop a follow over there, you get notified when we go live, so you join in the fun and conversation with us as we record. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. You can go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, wherever you're watching, listening, etc., if you could drop a follow, hit that sub button, whatever it is, it may seem small, but it does help the channel grow, and we would love and appreciate you for it. Today, we're talking a lot of games. We're going to open up with talking about Steam Next Fest, which as of recording, there's one more day? Yeah, one more day of this year, at least the February one. So I wanted to talk about the demos that I jumped into, my thoughts and experiences with those, and hopefully put some games on your guys' radar that maybe you didn't know about or stuff like that. So I will say, to open up, we did this topic last year, so I guess this is a kind of revisit, but not really, because it's not talking about the same games. But I did put a little bit more time into the demos this year. I had the opportunity to play, I think, 13 over on stream. So glad I was able to do that. Had some fun ones, had some ones that weren't bad, just some of the messaging or how they presented their demo, I guess, wasn't the best. So I wanted to talk about some highlights that I had played and give you guys some information there. So first one, it was a kind of simple one, very fun and cute though puzzle game called Cat Needs. Cat Needs, developed by Lejeune's Art, also published by them. I believe this is a solo dev, if I'm not mistaken. Seems like they've worked on a few other projects. But what this was, Cat Needs, excuse me, I keep putting a second S there. But all this was, it was essentially a puzzle game where you need to get the cats the appropriate stuff that they need. Maybe they need to sleep, maybe they need to have some food, maybe they need both, a combination. And you had to figure out how to get the cats to the appropriate areas, whether it's the food bowls, they had little cardboard boxes for where they were sleeping in, and you had to figure out how to navigate them all to their areas. Some cats can jump, some can't, and they're different heights. Very simple in concept, but it was an adorable game, and I enjoyed my time with it. I think they had a few levels that you could play there, but interested to see, what other cats they do add. I think they mentioned at the end of the demo they were adding 7 or 9 different cats in the end. I don't recall. But it was fun. Just one of those things you kind of, test your brain out with the puzzle stuff and have a cute little aesthetic to it. So enjoyed that. Also learning that it was a solo dev was very cool as well. Great color scheme to it as well. So that was the first one that stuck out to me. Then we had one that I learned, I believe, from the 6-1 Indie Showcase. I don't know if it was the last one they did or the previous one, but Anti-Paint. So Anti-Paint, definitely more chaotic than Cat Needs, but it was a roguelite paint shoot 'em up, something like that. So you're this little paint blob. You can have a different paint brushes that you can use to fend off the enemies, defeat them as you're going on. I think the two they had in the demo was there was a brush and then there was a roller that you could eventually unlock. And what you're doing is you're simply moving around this canvas using your roller or brush to defeat the different enemies that are approaching you. So you're navigating around. Every enemy that you defeat bursts out some paint, so you're kind of making this masterpiece as you're going around. And with the roguelite elements, there were certain things that you could get, whether it was a health upgrade or faster shooting or different abilities and specials that you could use to kind of do more of an area of effect attack. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time with it. I've been getting more into the roguelike genre these past couple of years. So this demo was a lot of fun. I think it ended, well, I don't know, I didn't reach the ending, but the last thing I did, you got to a boss fight. It was the Mona Lisa, but I think they had to flip it Lona Misa or something like that. But you had to fight that. And yeah, just fun, chaotic fun. kind of like, old asteroids where you're navigating everything with those elements of the roguelite with the power-ups and stuff between stages. So I had a lot of fun with that. Definitely looking forward to that. That was developed by Vilius Parekis, also published by them. Apparently coming out this year. It looks like this is their first project. Yes. So interested to see when that comes out. Yeah, it just says this year, so unfortunately no specifics. I believe Cat Needs, they didn't have a set date either. But I had a lot of fun with this one. Like I said, very simple in terms of what you were doing, but fun, silly, cheeky. Yes. Next one that stuck out to me was Haunty. Haunty, I think, is another one. I don't know if I saw this on 6-1. I think this was maybe a Summer Games Fest or something similar. But Haunty seems like it's going to be a very emotional journey, and they hit you in the feels with this demo as well. Oh, they're broadcasting right now. I don't need to be watching that. But the story of Haunty, you're this little wisp. You're a person who's died. You want to learn more about your past, and you run into this angel at one point who tries to take you up to heaven, the afterlife. I'm not really sure. But unfortunately, you can't continue the journey with her. You kind of get chained down and brought back down. But the game is twin-stick shooter, and you're just going around these levels collecting, I think it was little star pieces. And what those star pieces allow you to do is see more of your past, who you actually were, and learn more about that. And I guess that is your main journey, is just seeing who you really were and probably eventually going up to heaven and moving on. This was developed by Moonloop Games and published by Firestoke. This one's coming out Q2 2024. I think this one's also coming to multiple platforms. But yeah, this game, like I said, it's going to hit in the feels. Even with the demo, something we'd seen from the trailer with that moment of ascension just got really sad that we were chained down and not able to go anywhere. Art style is great. The Wisp, your main character, Haunty, her little hood kind of like flickers around. Simple stuff, but looks really, really great. It's one of those things, like, it looks simple, but knowing how much work goes into it to make it look this good and seamless, kudos to them. Very excited for this one. I would, a lot of people are comparing this to, like, Agree, how it's going to hit you in the feels with that. I could definitely see that. So intrigued to go on this journey with the Haunty team when this does eventually come out. Looks like a lot of fun. Another one where the artwork looks great. A lot of dark tones. I think they kind of give you this general path on levels that you can take. But if you go off that path, because you have that freedom to do so, you'll kind of get these like demon characters that are kind of haunting you. So you have to try and avoid that. But also a lot of cute companions that you can meet along the way. And they have this cool puzzle aspect where as the ghost, you can haunt different things. And you can either gather resources that way, extra ones that you might not have found regularly, or you can solve different puzzles with them, whether it's lighting up a path or opening a door or whatever it may be. I didn't do too much of that outside of what was necessary, but it seems like you do have that freedom to jump in between objects whenever you would like to get those abilities. So excited to jump into this, see what it's about. All right, next. If you want chaos in your games and you like, just some great ass music and rushing down like racetracks and stuff like that, this one I had no idea about until I tried it out. This one was one of the brand new ones for me, but Crash Course Builder. First things first. Awesome soundtrack. It's like every level that you got into is a new track, but they had fantastic music. All the levels are really short. The basic concept of this game is you're a crash test dummy, and you are trying to race through this course where there's jump pads, spikes, explosives, there's holes in the wall, there's different hammers that are trying to like smash you and stuff. And you have to react quick of switching in between these lanes. to try and get to the end. All the levels are relatively short, but it's just fun chaos of high speed, switching through. It's kind of rhythm based. I don't know if it has that like a Guitar Hero or Hellsinger, Metal Hellsinger, stuff like that. But it was a lot of fun, even though, you do crash from time to time, are going to crash often trying to figure out the puzzles and where you need to go, what the ideal pathing is. This was a lot of fun. Like I said, with the levels being so short, you get that sense of accomplishment, and it's not this long, arduous task of, gotta keep dying here, and I have so much farther to go. It's usually switch it up just a little bit here and there, and you'll be able to pass. This is developed and published by Wombat Brawler. It says it's going to be 2024. It also has fun other aspects to it that they didn't have available in the demo, to my knowledge, but they have a level editor. So if you wanted to make your own, you could. And I also think this is multiplayer, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if they have any info on that. A lot of unlockables too, so you can customize your little racer, crash course dummy dude. I'm not seeing it, but they do have like a friend list, so I don't know if that's just because of like, people's courses that you really, really enjoy or whatnot, or maybe time trials. Maybe that's the multiplayer aspect of it. But yeah, just fun chaos, zipping around. You really need some fast reflexes at points, but exciting game to jump into, and it was a nice surprise. All right, let's talk about #Blood. #Blood was one I was anticipating and very excited for. So if you guys like Saturday cartoons, this one looks just like a cartoon, just like your Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon program. The art style looks insane, and going from cutscenes to gameplay is great. You're a little girl trying to save your friends and fight off the vampire apocalypse, survive the horrors of freshman field hockey practice and Blood, a delightfully zany animated dungeon crawler that blurs the line between action RPGs and hyperkinetic 90s cartoons. So the demo that we were playing, we got, I think it was 3 areas. You got like your neighborhood, your school, and then the basement of the school, that kind of like introductory area of the game, what you're going to be setting up the premise, all that stuff. And it was awesome. The demo went on for a while, but it was not in a bad way. It was very entertaining. The characters are all zany. They got their own personalities. There's an element of like social media in there, so that's how you get your mission quests, and you can see the different reaction between the characters. I'm excited to jump into this farther. They had, at least in this demo, you could punch, and you could use like your field hockey stick towards the end. I'm curious if there will be more weapons that you can use, and I'm curious to see what the story is, like how it's going to evolve. You initially were just trying to fit in and help a bake sale, I believe it is, and you're like, oh, my mom's got a cookbook, and it turns out to be like this Necronomicon, or it's like this spooky book. You never see the mom. You interact with the dad a few times, so I'm curious if she's a vampire or how this is going to work out, dealing with the vampires that are going on. And I'm not sure if like you woke them up or if they were already around. I don't know. Seems fun. Seems chaotic in the best way possible. And like I said, the art style itself is just insane. It's developed by Exit 73 Studios and published by Humble Games. Apparently also Exit 73 somewhat local, so good for them. This is their first project. I guess they've done a lot of support on other stuff. But yeah, 2024 for this one as well. And yeah, we'll just have to see. That's the only thing about these demos that's like, downside. Most of them don't have dates, so we'll have to see. Hopefully, best of luck to all these studios that, they can hit their projected time and don't hit any snags. But yeah. Let's talk about Kill a Million Rats. Another one that kind of hit me out of nowhere. Did not expect. This is a mixture of real-time strategy, RTS, and I guess, roguelite? Yeah. Developed by Nerd-Ook Productions and published by Surefire Games. So picture old Warcraft, StarCraft, stuff like that, with an art style of Don't Starve-ish, and waves upon waves of enemies. So what you're doing is you're like this forest spirit that's helping these villagers that unfortunately has been overrun by these rats that have wiped their villages, and they're just trying to rebuild, be safe, and live their happy lives. You come here and you are their protector. You help them build and establish a village, similar to, like I said, Warcraft, where you get like a blacksmith and a lumber yard and different resource buildings that you can do. You can also do defensive towers. You do that for a certain amount of turns. As the enemies are prepping, they let you know, like, hey, you're going to have an attack in 3 days or whatever it is. You build up these bases, build up your forces with these little cute little animal guys. And then when the timer runs out, you go into battle. You get like 3 waves of either just rats, or as we progress, we got different like rats with armor. And then I think there was some bugs that were attacking us that had different elemental and spell attacks. They'll just rush you in these waves as you and your little people are defending the village. I had an absolute blast with it. The turn-based stuff was a little confusing. I don't know if it was just because of the tutorial where it's like, hey, build this building. It didn't really show what my freedoms were in those turns. If like I can build multiple buildings or have the option to do that. And like I said, I'm sure it's just because it was the demo, like, hey, lay this out, lay this out, lay this out. But I'm interested to see once the full release comes out what my freedom of building this village is, what tools I can pick, obviously what works, what doesn't work. The abilities they did give us after each turn to help out like your stats and your attacks, thought those were all good, and they were compelling enough where it was a tough decision of like, which way do I really want to go? It wasn't like a clear path of like, those suck. So yeah, it was a fun one to jump into. Like I said, one I was not expecting or like planning to play ahead of time. So it was just a fun surprise. This one, release date to be announced. So it seems like this one may be a little bit farther out. This one might also be a solo dev. I'm not mistaken. Seems like they've worked on a bunch of other projects. Yeah, they've been developing, if this is to be believed. I don't know if this is just like a search. No, it's searching the developer. 2015, 2014. Yeah, 2014 seems to be their earliest stuff. So yeah, cool. Looking forward to it. That one I'll definitely be heavily anticipating. Angerfoot. Angerfoot was a quick one that I jumped into towards the end of the stream, I believe on the second day. But this is by, or it's at least published by Devolver. Let's see who it's developed by. Free Lives. So, do you like fast pace? Do you like goofiness? Well, this one's for you. So this is a quick, fast-paced, first-person shooter where you are just trying to blast through these levels, literally, and kick your way to the end. The demo that we got to play, we're in this house just clearing levels. You get to kick people, you get a gun, and I would kind of compare it to like a Neon White minus the card aesthetic, but fast-paced and trying to get through it quickly as fast as you can. That is what I would like in this gameplay too, and it's a lot of fun. I will say, loud music. Obviously, I could change that. A lot of flashing lights. Not a good thing to play when you have a headache, because that certainly did not help. But I did have a lot of fun with it. I'm curious if there's a story to this, or if it's just goofiness for goofiness sake. But yeah, this one I've seen for a while, just because of the Devolver backing. They obviously have a little bit more support there, so I'm curious to see how this comes out. The developers also worked on Broforce, Genital Jousting, and I guess Terra Nil. So they got some good games in their library as well that they've worked on. Release date also says 2024. So hopefully we'll get some more lockdown, more specific details, I guess, as we go forward. But yeah, very fun. Very fun. Last one I'm going to talk about very briefly. If you guys have checked over on YouTube, we had a preview build for Deathbound, which the demo was also available for Steam Next Fest. So this was a Souls-like action RPG. I had a great time with it. Obviously, code provided by Vicarious and Trial Forge. But I had a great time playing this. I'm not big into the Souls-like genre. I like them in terms of their aesthetic and like their visuals, but I'm not great at them. I kind of get part of the way through, and then, oh boy, I'm getting my butt kicked. Granted, this was a demo. We'll have to see once the full project comes out, but I never felt or never got to a point of frustration with this game. Everything felt, if it didn't go my way, it felt like understandable and earned. Earned sounds weird. But the world that they have in here is kind of this mix of medieval and futuristic, like, I guess you could call it cyberpunky. But it was a cool melding of worlds, and I think the most interesting aspect of the gameplay is you have multiple heroes that you're playing as. It's not just one hero that you're diving into and, hacking and slashing your way through the enemies here. You get to jump in between. I think total they're going to have 7. No, I think it was more than that. But you get a team of 4 that you can jump between, and I think they had sync attacks is what they called, where you can morph in between the 4 heroes. So every hero has their own stamina and health, which is essentially linked. So the higher your health, the more stamina you get, lower. If you get low at any point with any hero and you want to swap, you can either just do it through a button command, or you can do it through these sync attacks where you morph at the same time as you're doing the attacks to punish your enemies. And there's different, they have like different classes similar to D&D. Like there's a rogue thief, there's a knight that has a big like 2-handed hammer, there's one with a sword and shield. I had a mage, I think I had a spear woman at one point. And that swapping in between is just really cool, especially how you can do it, whether it's the attack or even in an evasion. It doesn't feel like panic mode at times. It feels like you have a little bit more control of like, okay, I can do this now. I don't have to back away from my opponent, hope and pray that they don't attack me while I'm switching. You could do it in the middle of the fight, and allows you to stay in it instead of just run away and panic as things are going on. So really enjoyed Deathbound. Another one I'm looking forward to. If you want to see more footage of it, like I said, I do have the YouTube video up there. Once again, code provided by Trial Forge Studio and Vicarious PR for this one. But yeah, another one I was not anticipating and definitely got my attention with it, especially being a genre that's not always been my cup of tea in terms of my success rate. But this one looks fun and looks more inviting to those who want to know or get into it without, jumping into the more mainstream ones and then ripping your hair out. So yeah, those were some of the demos that I played for Next Fest. I did play a few more, but those are the ones that definitely stood out to me. If you're watching the live recording, you still have till tomorrow, I believe, to play the Steam Next Fest demos. But if you missed this year's, no worries. I think they have two a year or something like that. So if you see those come around, I definitely recommend you jumping into those. Give it a shot, give it a try, see what you like. There's a lot of demos. I think I overheard 6-1 talking, saying they had like 500 demos. That could be wrong, but there was a lot. There's a lot out there, a lot of different genres as well, so you're not locked into like, oh, they're all just, one certain type of game. A lot of different stuff for you to try out and play. And anything that you do like, just make sure you wish list them. That does help those studios, those developers get into the eyes of the publishers, or at least when they go to them, be like, hey, we have some traction in our game. This is how many people are interested in it, and try and help those guys out, further their project and development. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. Definitely a lot of fun with it. So cool. All right, so let's jump into topic 2. We're going to revisit a topic from last week. Let's talk about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League again. I know you're like, what? It's only been a week. Why are we talking about this some more? I wanted to talk a little bit more about my thoughts and feelings about Suicide Squad now that I finished the game. As of recording yesterday, I finished the story, beat it all the way through, and I'm now kind of in that post-game area of more freedom and what you can do. So I wanted to talk about the story beats, how I thought the story was going overall, or how it went overall rather, and then what this post-game stuff means, how fun it is, and talk more on that side. So there will be spoilers here. We're going to go right into it. So if you don't want to know about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League story, here's your point to leave. Come back at your leisure. You can check this out. But yeah, so finishing the campaign yesterday, I still stand by the fact that in terms of a visual and storytelling, I think Rocksteady did a great job with this one as well. I don't think it's their best story in compared to the Arkham series, but I think, I think the journey we went on was pretty good. And the ending, it falls a little flat. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more in depth later on. But the journey that we went on with the squad here and going against the Justice League, I think was fun. I think it was exciting. And I think the boss battles, especially against Batman and Superman, were really engaging and felt like, oh, okay, we're in it now. In terms of a campaign length, this one was definitely shorter. If you were to streamline everything and really, pedal to the metal, gun it, I think this is like 8 to 10 hours overall. Not bad. Not saying that's a bad thing. It just feels like those big story moments, as we talked about with our last week's review, they feel far and few between. And I say far in terms of what you feel as a player. It doesn't take you like, it takes you 2 hours to get between this really cool story point and then the next cool story point. But in terms of feel of what you're doing in between those points, sometimes it can feel a little, I don't know if daunting is the right word, but it feels like it lacks because those middle portions, and I think I said this last week, sometimes aren't super engaging. I have enjoyed this game a lot more since I've stopped streaming it. I don't know if that's just like the content's not super engaging, or it's kind of like that. I talked about it a few weeks ago, or maybe months ago at this point, like Borderlands. Like, it's a fun game, but sometimes you need something that you can kind of turn your brain off to and just zone out to it. And I think this game is that zone out type game. And in terms of a stream perspective, it wasn't like, this is engaging enough for a stream atmosphere where we can talk about what's going on. I can keep actively talking about what's going on. Where are we going? What's this? What's that? This feels more like turn your brain off, just kill some time, enjoy your time with it, and not be super in-depth, at least in those in-between moments. When you hit those cinematic moments, that's where I'm like, this is really cool. I'm enjoying the story they're telling, and I'm really enjoying the character interactions once again in between one another. Once again, I think this is all repeating what I said last week, but just want to elaborate on that a little bit more. So like I said, the Batman fight, very, very cool. We get to see him use more of the fear toxin, as we kind of learned with Arkham Knight, as that was the path he was going post finishing Scarecrow and the Arkham Knight himself. We get to experience that and fight him in that kind of realm. And then the Superman fight, I don't know if it was just me, a little tough and engaging, which it should be. It's fucking Superman. They had good reasoning or good explanation of how you were able to fight Superman. We were able to use some gold kryptonite, laced bullets and weaponry, and have the gold kryptonite like all around us, not a full armor set. It looked goofy. They just had like different stones, like taped literally and tucked away in different articles of clothing. But his fight, I would say, was probably the most fun. He's zipping around. He's, picking up different objects that are smashing you. At one point, he's like trying to make himself stronger by bringing the planet closer to the sun by smashing it down. That one was a lot of fun. Like I said, had some difficulties with it, just in terms of like me avoiding certain attacks. Not anything impossible, just the typical difficulty elevation you would expect in your games, that curve up. Really enjoyed that fight, thought that was good. The ending, like I said, it kind of falls apart. And not falls apart of like, this is awful, like other games we've talked about in the past, but just in terms of like, oh, that's a little bit of a letdown. So they set up this premise with Lex Luthor from Earth 2. Now, going into this, we knew Elseworlds was going to be a thing, or this multi-universal thing is going on, right? Because that's how we're going to get other characters like the Joker coming forward. It's a different Joker from a different universe. I know, all these parallel universes, multiverses stuff happening right now. It's a lot. But we learn from Lex 2 that Brainiac is working with other Brainiacs to completely take over all of the universes. Okay, great, swell. So our Brainiac is apparently working with 12 other Brainiacs, and our mission now is obviously expanded from defeating Brainiac to defeating all 12 of the Brainiacs. So in my head, as I was playing this, I'm like, oh, okay, we're just, the story is kind of expanding a little bit. I thought we were wrapping up. We're going to fight Brainiac, and that was going to be kind of it. And you do some lead up, some prep missions as you do, to jump over to Earth 2, where Lex was, and fight that Brainiac. All right, you jump there. The missions are actually really, really fun. I mean, it's, you generic shooting around, avoiding stuff, escort type thing. But I thought it was really engaging because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of enemies. At this point, you're really comfortable with the trajectory of your heroes and your mobility, your traversal. So you're like zipping around, you're shooting everybody. I'm having a great time with Deadshot, zoom into the jetpack, fly over here, throw a grenade, blah, 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 go over to this group, do the thing. Like, it feels great because at this point you've put the time into it and it feels like everything meshes really, really well. And it's fun. You get to the Brainiac fight after 2 final prep missions on Earth 2. You have like a 30-minute timer to do both of those missions and get to Brainiac. Never had a problem with the timer. I think you can mess with the difficulty if you want. Higher difficulty you do, better loot you do, or rather you get. I was just going normal difficulty, so I didn't have any problems with the time here. But you get to Brainiac, and he does this whole, evil monologue, ha ha ha. And he's like, I can meld or use the powers of those I've absorbed through the technology and use it for myself. So he essentially becomes the Flash. And it's just like a rehash of the Flash fight you had, I don't know, towards the beginning, halfway through the game. And you do it, and you're like, oh, well, that was it. No, like, stage 2, no bigger escalation of the fight. He's relatively easy to beat in comparison to the Superman fight, I felt. So you capture him, and Waller and Lex want him alive so they can get into his data network, whatever. So you bring him there, and you think you kill him first, which the team has a great stuff about that. They're like, oh crap, we ruined it. But he's fine, and you get the data from him, and you learn, yeah, okay, now we got to take care of the other 12. And the game ends there. That's technically the ending. They're like, great, you did that. And the team's all like chipper of like, yeah, we did it, cool thing. And yeah, it just ends. And I can understand why it ended that way, but in terms of just like a campaign in itself, it just fell flat. Now, the reason they're doing this is the live service aspect of the game. They've already announced that they're going to do DLC, and it's free DLC. So let's take that with a grain of salt. Like, hey, a win, And they have 4 seasons at least right now that are announced. First one's Joker, and 3 others. And with each of those, we're going to be able to go to a different Earth, and you get different loot that you can do and different cosmetics items that you can unlock, all that jazz. It seems like this is how they are keeping this, or adding to this live service element, is every season you'll be able to go to a different Elseworld, multiverse, parallel universe, whatever you want to call it, this other Earth, tackle that Earth's Brainiac that's invading, and then so on and so forth as the content comes out. Now, I'm curious how this is all going to work out. The first season starts in March, allegedly. Are we just getting one world, one Brainiac per DLC? Or is the 4 the maximum and you're going to get 3? I think that's how that math would work out, right? Yeah. And go from there. I'm curious how engaging this is going to be. Because you got to assume, right? After all 12, or all that content is out, if you beat all 12, you get the quote-unquote true ending, right? Now, there's 2 ways you can go about it. Play it as it comes out, wait till the end and play it there. I'm curious in terms of keep playing it as they come out. Is it going to be engaging enough to continuously play this throughout this time? Now, if it's one moon, one Brainiac, one universe per season, and, high hopes, we get a season each month, that's a year of content, which, games are doing all the time now, I guess, if you really think about, all different battle passes, like a Fortnite, a Call of Duty, a Halo, stuff like that. I guess isn't that bad. It's just one of those things that makes you scratch your head, be like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Is it going to be fun for me, though, to do this the whole time? And I don't know if that audience is there. Obviously, the internet's been really against this game for a while, even before it coming out, just because it's live service stuff. I think the internet's been a little harsh. If it doesn't click with you, it doesn't click with you. That's totally fine. I don't think this game is awful. It's just that weird, it's too, I think I talked about it last week, it's 2 good games that just don't mesh really well, or 2 good aspects of games that don't mesh really well. Yeah, I'm curious how this content rollout will go. Now, could you wait till the end? Yeah, absolutely, and then get your true ending, and maybe that's the more beneficial thing to do for you in terms of fun factor. It's just will anybody think about it then if they do that? If you decide to set this to the side in a year's time, are you going to think, oh yeah, you know what I should go back to Suicide Squad? Or are you going to be wrapped up with, I don't know, whatever else is next down the road? I doubt it, but a Death Stranding 2 and other big titles that you've been looking forward to. I'm not sure. I'm going to give it a chance. Like I said, I am enjoying my time with it. I can't lie there. I think I played 5-6 hours yesterday going through the end of the story and a little bit past. I am enjoying it as one of those things, click, turn the brain off, and just go. It's going to be interesting to see how that gameplay loop continues and goes in between seasons, and once the new seasons come out, what new stuff they allow us to do, or what new missions are they engaging? Is the Battle Pass content worthy enough of your time and engaging there? We'll have to see. Right now, for me, I think my main motivation for playing is, you guys, if you've listened to the podcast before, I like trophies. This is something I'm yeah, I think I could do the trophies for this, and I'm going to go for the platinum. So that's what's driving me right now. It's going to be one of those things after I reach that point, is it going to be continuous? Is it going to keep engaging me enough to keep putting my time into it? And I guess that's something I can move on to now, and talking about having finished the game is post-game content. So once you finish the story, there's still a few things you can do in terms of the main story. Not really, but throughout you get these side quests for your support squad. So Penguin, Hack, Toyman, Gizmo, and more, where occasionally they'll give you missions that will open up pretty much kind of benefits for you. So for Hack, different contracts that you can take on to get more resources, experience. Penguin gets you different weapon vendors. Gizmo improves the cars that you can use if you decide to use those. So once the main story's done, you still have 3, 5, something like that. Sorry, I completed some of them, so some of them are already checked off. You still have a few of those support squad missions that you can do. So that's one thing. But then they open up the gameplay loop for you where you can go after this loot and infamy sets for the different multiverses that you have unlocked. So you jump in, you do these specific missions that are a little bit more difficult, and you can scale up the difficulty for it to try and get this loot in that different universe. So for this first one that they have here, they have Finite Crisis is what they're calling that world. It's like Bane, or not armor sets, but Bane weaponry that you can unlock. I believe they have more. Let me check right here for a second. So yeah, most of it's Bane, but there's like Hugo Strange has a weapon, Two-Face has a weapon, and stuff like that. But mostly it's Bane stuff that you can get. And depending on the tier of difficulty you're at, you can get different loot. So it's just that kind of chasing that stuff. There's different modifiers and mutators. So if you want to make it more difficult on top of the difficulty level, you can do that. So this could be a fun experience, especially if you're playing with a party or some friends. That could be something fun that you could jump into, do some runs or whatever you want to call it. So they have that content available to you. They still, on the main planet as well, have a few things that you can do in terms of just like experience for your characters and other missions that get you the resources to do the Elseworld missions. So this resource, which I don't remember what it's called, Prometheum, something with a P, but you need like X amount of that resource to then buy your way into some of the Elseworld infamy set type missions. It's nothing you have to buy like real world money. It's just something you earn. So it's like that grinding, like, I need 1,000. Okay. And so far the missions have been very generous of like big numbers. So it's not like, oh my God, this is going to take 8 years to do. You run in, you do a mission real quick. You probably have a third of your currency, if not more, to go into there. So yeah, it's engaging in terms of difficulty. I think that will be good. But yeah, does the loot, I guess, is that enough of enticement to keep going for this? We'll have to see. So yeah, final thoughts. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, treating it more of that like turn your brain off, just kind of go in for the fun. I've definitely enjoyed my time more with that. And yeah, just curious how the post deal, like the DLC content will roll out, and 2, how engaging it will be in order to continue to get to that true ending at the end. Like, I'm intrigued because I want to know, because it felt so flat just finishing off Brainiac and be like, oh, there's still more story. It didn't feel satisfying. And I have that morbid curiosity of like, okay, what is that ending? But they're going to have to earn it. They're going to have to earn it. If things are fun and it's engaging enough, it doesn't have to be cinema, but if it's good enough, then I'll be on for the ride. But yeah, other than that, I could probably just be like, nope, got what I needed out of Suicide Squad, check the box. I don't need to be around for the rest of this. So I definitely would put this towards the lower part of Rocksteady stuff. Happy they did it. Happy they, messed around with a new gameplay style and did what they wanted to do. Once again, visually looks great. The characters are very well done, and in terms of like voice acting and the portrayals, they did fantastic. Yeah, just hope for a little bit more, I guess, in terms of substance and in betweens. But yeah, just figured I'd give my one more thoughts on Suicide Squad as I wrapped up the game. But yeah. Well, everybody, this has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can check this podcast out live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You could drop a follow over there. You join on the fun and conversation with us if you'd like as we record. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. You can go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, as it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support the show, there's a follow button, a sub button right there, wherever you may be watching or listening. If you'd hit that, it seems small, but it has helped the channel grow, so we'd love and appreciate you for it. Thanks for hanging out today, guys, for all this video game chat. Hope you guys have a good one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.